Vanachari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading today from the Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 2, Text 32. The chapter is called The Elephant Gajendra's Crisis. Namami me kyataya aturangaja Kuta karinya prabhavanti mochitum Grahena pashena vidatur avrito Pyahang chatang yami parang parayanam Namami me kyataya aturangaja Kuta karinya prabhavanti mochitum Grahena pashena vidatur avrito Pyahang shatang yami parang parayanam Namami me kyataya aturangaja Kuta karinya prabhavanti mochitum Grahena pashena vidatur avrito Pyahang chatang yami parang parayanam
Namami me gyataya aturam gajaha
Namami me gyataya aturam gaja
Kutakarinya prabhavanti mochitum
Yatakarinya bhavanti mochitum.
Grahena pashena vidhaturagato.
Rahena pashena kridati avrito.
Yaham satam yami param parayanam.
Pyaham chatanyami parang parayanam.
Namami me yanataya puram gachaha.
Vimami me gyataya aturangacha.
Kuta karanya prabhavanti mochitum.
Kutakariyanya bhavanti mochitum.
Rahena prasena vigrahatur avito.
Grahena pashena vitatu avrito.
Yam chantam ayami param parayanam.
Yumucham yami parang parayanam. Vivangi me gyataya aturangaja. Kutakarinya bhavanti mochitum. Rahena pashena vidatu avrito. Yaham chatanyami parang parayanam. Good. Okay. Word for word. No. Not. Mom. Me. He may. All these. Yatayaha. Friends and relatives. The other elephants. Aturam. In my distress. Gajaha. The elephant. Kutaha. How. Harinya. My wives. Prahavanti. Are able. Mochitum. To deliver from this dangerous position. Grahena. By the crocodile. Hashena. By the network of ropes. Vidatuhu. Of providence. Avritaha. Captured. Api. Although I am in such a position. Aham. I. Cha. Also. Tam. That. Actually, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yami. Take shelter of. Haram. Who is transcendental. Harayanam. And who is the shelter of even the exalted demigods like Lord Brahma and Shiva? Translation. The other elephants, who are my friends and relatives, could not rescue me from this danger. What then to speak of my wives? They cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile, and therefore I shall seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone even of great personalities. Repeat after me. The other elephants, who are my friends and relatives, could not rescue me from this danger. What then to speak of my wives? They cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile. And therefore, I shall seek shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone, even of great personalities. Purport. The material world is described as padang padang yadvipadam, which means that at every step there is danger. A fool wrongly thinks that he is happy in this material world, but in fact he is not. For one who thinks that way is only illusioned. At every step, at every moment, there is danger. In modern civilization, one thinks that if he has a nice home and a nice car, his life is perfect. In the Western countries, especially in America, it is very nice to possess a good car. But as soon as one is on the road, there is danger, because at any moment an accident may take place and one will be killed. The record actually shows that so many people die in such accidents. Therefore, if we actually think that this material world is a very happy place, this is our ignorance. Real knowledge is that this material world is full of danger. Real knowledge is that this material world is full of danger. We may struggle for existence as far as our intelligence allows and may try to take care of ourselves. But unless the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, ultimately saves us from danger, our attempts will be useless. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, Bhavashaneha sharanang pito nrishringa nartasya chagadam udan bhati majato no naha taptasya tat prati vidir ya ihan cheshtas tavad vivo tanu vitam twad upekshitanam. That's from the 7th canto, 9th chapter, 19th verse. We may invent so many ways to be happy or to counteract the dangers of this material world. But unless our attempts are sanctioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they will never make us happy. Those who try to be happy without taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are mudhas, rascals. The Mang Duskritino mudha prapajante naradama. Those who are the lowest of men refuse to take to Krishna consciousness because they think that they will be able to protect themselves without Krishna's care. This is their mistake. The decision of the king of the elephants, Gajendra, was correct. In such a dangerous position, he sought shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Om Ajnana Timiranda Shakina Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. And so we have a situation here. This great personality who was a king, but he was a king of the elephants. But he was also a devotee of the Lord. somehow. This must have been a special elephant, because usually elephants don't have any concept of God. But when he found himself in a very difficult situation, when he realized that no one else could help him, when he realized he couldn't help himself, then uh, he knew the only one who could actually save him, as a last resort, was the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada explains that yes, we can, when we're in some difficulty, we do our best to save ourselves, to take care of ourselves, but we have to ultimately understand that ultimately no one can really save us from danger or from the miseries of life, except for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He gives the example of a car. Someone might be very happy, they're feeling good. I'm on the top of the world. I got a fancy car like that. Uh, uh, I'm, I'm, I'm more than the status quo, like that. I got like that. So they feel that yes, I'm very happy. People look up to me because I have a nice car and a nice house and a big mansion, or something like this. But they don't realize probably that they're always in danger. I mean, if someone has um, uh, you know, there are a number of billionaires in the world who have 200, $300 billion to their name, and they're in anxiety. They're in anxiety because who's going to take my money? Who's going to kill me? Who's going to, is this person my friend? Is this person my enemy? How do I know? Because maybe they're just attracted to my money, like that, and they have to make so much endeavor for security and special buildings and special ways to sneak around, always afraid that somebody's going to do something to them. So, still, they may feel that I'm actually very happy in this world. This is normal. You have to take they say you have to take the bad with the good. Well, in a sense, that's good. That's true. But if you think that, okay, it's just normal, it's just normal for us, for the soul, to be happy, to suffer, then that's not correct. I mean, in the material world, yes, it is correct, but it's not the goal. It's not the real perfection for the spirit soul is to go back home, back to the spiritual world, and not have to suffer at all. And even if we are in the material world, our suffering can be minimized by taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It can be minimized. And one who is completely Krishna conscious, the suffering is minimized because for one thing, such a personality fully realizes that he is or she is not this material body. And we always talk like that. Oh, we're not this body. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, but what does that mean? I mean, what does that realization actually mean? If we completely realize that I'm not this material body, then the pains and the pleasures that we experience with this body, they don't exist. I mean, they exist, but you don't identify with the body. I mean, you burn your hand, then it hurts. But if you're 100% realize that you are separate from this body, then it's very much minimized. In fact, and I brought this up in a class previously, and somebody objected to it, but it's actually Srila actually says it. And this is a quote from Lord Shiva to Parvati, talking about the pure devotees of the Lord, who says that for one who is on the level of pure love of Krishna, this actually was in chapter 19 of Nectar Devotion, is quoted, one who's on the level of pure love of Krishna, can actually not perceive the material happiness or the material distress of this material world. It's hard to identify like that unless you're there, and I'm not. But one who's on that level does not identify in that way. So he realizes it's not this material body. He realizes that he's spirit soul, and he realizes he's 100% servant of Krishna. Has nothing to do with the material body. That's actually a very to actually say the one is if we want to actually say that I have full realization that I'm not this material body. That's really elevated. We can talk about it theoretically, but to actually have that full realization, it's a very exalted position. To be fully self-realized means self-realization doesn't just mean that we are realizing that I'm not this body, but full self-realization means that we are realizing that I'm completely as a servant and the shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It means you actually know your eternal relationship with Krishna. So someone who's on that level is actually free from the miseries, the real miseries of the material world. Even if the body is temporarily suffering, Srila Prabhupada also went through so much bodily suffering, so to speak. But Srila Prabhupada never really showed it. I mean, sometimes they would say he was not feeling well and like that. He maybe had a cold or he had different things happen. But he didn't really identify with it. And it was very obvious in Srila Prabhupada's last weeks, and months on this planet, because his body was like skin and bones. And they say doctors at that time were saying someone who's like that, where there's no muscle, there's no fat, it's just like skin on bones, literally. It's an extremely painful situation. But Srila Prabhupada never showed any sign at all of pain. He never showed any sign of. He wasn't like he just took everything he had just to tolerate it. He just didn't identify with it. He was like that, and he was even in that condition, even without any physical energy practically. He could hardly sit up without help. But he was still preaching to those who came near him. He was still dictating, even though he couldn't sit up and couldn't even hold the microphone for the dictaphone. He still was translating, not just translating, but dictating his purports in a certain part of the 10th canto of the Srimad-bhagavatam, even in that condition, which means that his mind was clear, intelligence was clear, and he was obviously not identifying with his bodily condition at all. We also have the example of the Srimad-bhagavatam of Grandfather Bhishma. The example of Grandfather Bhishma. So about Grandfather Bhishma, he was in the Battle of Kurukshetra. His body was shot full of arrows. They say that there were so many arrows that you couldn't even put a finger or two fingers between the arrows. And he had so many arrows that went all the way through. He was lying on a bed of arrows. They say at the end, it wasn't like he was put arrows in the ground. He's laying on top of, like some people put a show sometimes of lying on a bed of nails and things like that. These were arrows that actually went through his body, and he's lying in that condition. And still, what did he do? He was lying there, and he was giving Maharaj Yudhisthira asked him questions because Maharaj Yudhisthira, this is at the end of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and Maharaj Yudhisthira was to become the king. He was the rightful king of the emperor of the world at that point. But he was feeling, he was thinking, how can I do this? I'm supposed to be acting as king, and there's so many millions of people, he was thinking, have died because of to put me in as the king. And he was thinking like that, so he was not feeling comfortable taking that position. But he asked Bhishma some, different questions, and how does one guide the society, and so on like that. And Bhishma gave a lot of instructions, lying there on the bed of arrows that were all shot through his body, and he never showed any sign of difficulty or any sign of like pain. He was just lying there in that condition and preaching to Maharaj Yudhisthira, and of course everyone else who would come from all over the universe to see him in this moment of leading. He was a very special personality. I mean, he's one of the Mahajans, one of the 12. Well, the count is 12, but I think we got to count Srila Prabhupada and others in there too, so there's actually more than 12, but there's 12 that were listed, and he's one of them. So these are personalities that were, because they had taken full shelter of Krishna, they were free from these miseries, even though the material situation that they're in would have been normally full of misery. So here we have Gajendra, king of the elephants. He was living a very happy life. I can't say it was really happy, but he was considering himself very happy. He was the king. He had so many. He was the king of the elephants. He had so many elephant wives, so many children, so many relatives like that, and he was going there, and he was a protector of the people, the other animals in the forest, and he was respected by everyone. He was materially speaking, he was in a very good position. And then all of a sudden, this crocodile grabs hold of his foot, a giant crocodile. It's not a normal crocodile. And they fought for 1,000 years, he said. Didn't say what the lifespan of someone was there, but if it lasted for 1,000 years, it was had to have obviously been on a heavenly planet where lifespan was a lot longer. So he was fighting for 1,000 years, and he couldn't win. And so finally, he decided that I have no other choice. I've got to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we read yesterday how that means for someone to do that, for someone to come to that conclusion, means they have to be pious. Because if someone who's completely demoniac, when he's in trouble, he'll never think about God. He'll think that I'm still going to, I'll find a solution. I don't need anyone else. I've got things under control. I had a little setback that I'm going to, I'm going to succeed. Jai Shri Shri Gaura-Nitai, Shri Shri Radha Brita Vihari, Jagannath, Balaram, Lady Subhadra, going to Shri Ganesh, Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. So he was thinking, so he concluded that yes, I have no choice. My family, my relatives, my wives, and no one else. My own bodily strength. I'm so strong, but I cannot defeat this crocodile. So he finally concluded that there's no other choice except to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And, well, as we will read later on, he was saved. But why wait until that last moment when there's no other choice? Why wait until you say, I've done everything else, I've done everything I can do to not surrender to Krishna, and after everything else, I've got to surrender to Krishna. I have no choice. I don't want to surrender to Krishna, but I've got to admit it. I can't handle this myself. and then we surrender. A lot of times it works that way, but we shouldn't wait till then. Why not surrender to Krishna now? Why not dedicate our lives completely in Krishna's service? In ISKCON, it's easy. We know what we should be doing. Chant Hare Krishna, follow the regular principles, dedicate our lives as far as possible to giving Krishna consciousness to others, and of course, practicing it, living it ourselves. This is surrender to Krishna. Surrender to Krishna means surrender to the spiritual master. And even if we don't have a initiate, even if we don't have our own spiritual master, we do have Srila Prabhupada, who is our founder acharya, and anyone in ISKCON who becomes guru is supposed to be representing Srila Prabhupada, right? So so initiated or not initiated, it means we take shelter of the guidelines that Srila Prabhupada has given. A lot of his instructions are right here in these Srimad-bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, nectar devotion, nectar instruction, so on like that, and Srila Prabhupada's lectures and some letters he wrote. Letters were personal letters, but a lot of times the letters were applicable to many others too. So, but the main thing is whatever's in the books, it applies to all of us. The books are most important. The books are most important. The lectures are probably second important. The room conversations, and those are maybe a little less important. All are important, but as far as what we can say, what do I follow? How do I know that it applies to me? Applies to everyone? It's in his books primarily, and then sometimes Srila Prabhupada would speak certain things, but he may speak things they wouldn't put it in books. He said you could speak anything, but you have to be very, very careful what you write. So Srila Prabhupada took a lot of energy writing exactly what has to be written here. So the knowledge didn't have to be changed later on. There was editing and like that go down in the books. What I've seen is just it was for fixing mistakes that were made in the process of producing it, not changing Srila Prabhupada's instructions or anything. But the books themselves are real shelter. So we, practicing Krishna consciousness, we need to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada's representatives as far as possible. So we chant our rounds, we follow the principles, we dedicate our life to giving Krishna consciousness to others, and to supporting the Hare Krishna movement, the ISKCON movement, as far as possible, and always being aware that at any moment in our lives, danger can come. I mean, there's always danger. Padam yad vipadam tesham. At every step, there's danger in this world. It's a fact. We don't know. If there was no danger, then we wouldn't always be fearful. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Defending. Sometimes Prabhupada says defending, and sometimes he says fearing. Or we fear, so we try to defend. So we take all practical precautions to protect ourselves and family, and the deities. If we're in the temple, so we put bars up in front of the deities when nobody's here, like that. And even then, there's that danger, there's risk. So there's always danger in the material world, and so we always have to be in the mood of surrendering to Krishna, to deal with potential dangers that may come about in this world. And at the same time, we don't just say that okay, Krishna will take care of everything, and then but therefore I don't have to do anything. I'll just lay around and go about life as usual, and I know Krishna is going to protect me. Well, life as usual. If someone's life as usual is to be completely engaged in devotional service, then that's good. But if life as usual is let me just go on and, as they say, flirting with the material world, playing around, looking, just trying to enjoy the material world. If that's what someone's life as usual, then there will be problems. If our life as usual is just giving 100% our energy to certain Krishna service, then that's what we should be doing. And because we don't know at what point we may give up this material body. None of us know. We can be young, and something can happen, and we're finished. Not that we're finished, but the body is finished. Or we could be, or we can live to be very old, and before we give up this material body. But we don't know. There's just no way. Sometimes there's an accident. Sometimes there's sometimes we get actually pulled away by Maya. We can actually give up the association of devotees. It happens. It doesn't just happen. It's not like you're giving 100% in Krishna service, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're out in the material world forgetting about Krishna. It all starts with for one to go from 100% in Krishna consciousness to be 100% outside. It means there is some offense that was committed, or there is some period. It doesn't have to be a long period, but some period of contemplating some material sense gratification and giving into it. Bhagavad Gita says, by contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment, and by developing that attachment, one's mind becomes bewildered, and when the mind becomes bewildered, then the intelligence becomes lost, and when the intelligence becomes lost, then what happens? You take a nosedive into the pool, the material pool. That's where the term bloop comes from. Like you drop a pebble into water, bloop. So we don't want to bloop. We don't want to fall back into the material, into the material world. So, as far as contemplating the objects of the senses, how long does it take? Not very long. It's not like you necessarily have to be contemplating some sense object, and then days and days and weeks and months go by, and it gets more and more and more intense, and then you just give into it. It could happen in a second. It could happen in a second. You go out and we have the history of who? Ajamil. He was a devotee, Brahmana devotee, Vaishnava, like that. So he was like that in his youth, but he saw some illicit sexual thing going on out in the street somewhere, and his mind just became attracted, and immediately he just lost everything. He just gave everything up because his mind he contemplated, he got attached to it, and his mind became bewildered, and his intelligence was lost. And next thing he knows, he spent his entire lifetime with some prostitute somewhere. You know, prostitute, I mean, having children and everything, but it was that kind of relationship until he was very old, when the Yamadutas came to punish him, take him for punishment because of all his whole lifetime of sinful activities, his whole lifetime of not remembering God. I mean, the whole lifetime since his youth anyway, and he never even realized what happened. He became completely bewildered. Went through a whole lifetime. It was completely not knowledgeable what had happened. He didn't realize that he had even fallen down. It just became so. It can become like that, and only because he had very good fortune that one of his children had been named Narayan, youngest child, who he was very attached to. Even at old age, he had a young child. So imagine his life. And he, when he became afraid, he wasn't thinking about God even. At least Gajendra's thinking about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ajamil he was just, he's like calling for his young son, please help me. We couldn't have helped him anyway, but he's calling Narayan. But because his name was Narayan, and he's calling, and he was not. He was not thinking about God, but he was crying out in such desperation. Anyway, so he got the mercy, and so the Yamadutas were already there. The Vishnudutas came because he called out Narayan. So Narayan sends his Yamadutas, or his Vishnudutas rather, and they intervened. They stopped the Yamadutas, and then the Yamadutas had to go back because this is the first time in their history, their lifetimes, the Yamadutas, that anyone ever stopped them. When they were sent to get someone, they were like king. Nobody could stop them. Nobody could stop them. But they were stopped, and so they went back to Yamaraj and say this happened, and we couldn't complete our task of bringing in this sinful person. Why? What happened? And of course, Yamaraj, who was a very great personality, he's like religious principles personified. So he explained, and he explained that you see me like God, but actually, but I am simply servant of the Supreme Lord, and these were servants of the Supreme Lord. So that's why you could not defeat them. And he says, and he gave the instruction that if someone is chanting the holy names of the Lord, if someone's chanting the holy names of the Lord, then you cannot touch them. Srila Prabhupada also says about the neck beads, they're wearing neck beads, and the Yamadutas can't, But of course, the principle is that we're wearing the neck beads, but we're wearing the neck beads because we're practicing Krishna consciousness. So it's not that someone wears neck beads and goes out and spends his whole life engaged in sinful activities and say, I'm safe. Those Yamadutas aren't going to get me. Because I'm wearing these neck beads, these magical neck beads. No, it's not like that. The neck beads have a meaning, and if we're practicing Krishna consciousness and we're wearing them, then that's the idea. So that Ajamil, he was saved in that way, and then there are others who give up. Maybe became offensive, and they may go back to Godhead. They may have to take another birth to somehow deal with their offenses. Sometimes we see devotees, or people who take up the path of Krishna consciousness, and they show interest in Krishna, but because of some material condition, they just can't do it. They just can't do it. Um, Maybe there's some, a mental illness or something. They're attracted, they like chanting, they like reading, but they can't, but they have to deal with their medications or their something in their lives. So this would mean like they're suffering because of some previous offenses. Even if they want to take it up, they have to wait. And we all have probably been, I don't know, nobody can know for sure what their previous life was, but if we take up Krishna consciousness and we're so many years old when we take it up, and it was that long before we actually could do it, it was probably some offense previously. We started it before, we dropped it, and because of some offense, and then we had to wait until some point in our lives. Some get it started when they're young. Some get to start it when I was 19 when I started, and others start at other times. And some are very, very fortunate and they were born in devotee families, like that. But somehow or other, whatever it is, once we take up the path of Krishna consciousness in this lifetime, we should take it very seriously. That's the point. Take it very seriously, and don't give it up because we don't know. We give it up and think, like I remember I always used to hear this. I don't think it's my karma to be a devotee in this lifetime. First of all, it's not, karma has nothing to do with it. I don't think it's my karma to be a devotee in this lifetime, but I've had a lot of prasadam. And because I took a lot of prasadam, and when I die, I'm sure I'll take a nice birth in a devotee family, and then I'll succeed for sure. But it's not guaranteed. There's no guarantee because we always still have free will. We still have to individually use our free will to decide and choose that I want to dedicate my life. It doesn't just happen. It's not that someone can grow up in a family of devotees and and decide that they don't want to be a devotee. And someone can be born in the most sinful condition and say, hey, this is not good, and then decide to become a very serious devotee. So opportunity is very good, Prabhupada said, to be born in devotee family, but still the free will is always there. And so that's why we, for those who are born in this situation, give them all help, all shelter. I'm talking about you, Giovanni. You should be listening to this, Giovanni. Yeah, so we give all up for those who are parents, give every opportunity and encouragement for the little ones to become Krishna conscious devotees, because at one point when they get older, they'll have their actually finally have their choice. I don't want this, I want this. There was one devotee, I don't remember who it was, but I know the story. He was somebody grew up in a family of devotees, and he was always with the parents, until he got a certain age, and then so there's always someone telling him do this, do this, don't do this, like that. So he lived in that way, and it was nice. And one time he was describing that he was often with some others, the other ISKCON youth, and then there was some, I don't even know what the exact situation was, but there was some choice to do, let's go off and do such and such, something that was maybe not perfect. And then, but he had to decide. You're coming along, and he said, now I have a choice. Before there's no choice, so now I have a choice. And he thought about it. He thought about his life up to that point of Krishna consciousness. And he says, no, I'm not going to take that. And he said at that point, that's when he actually decided, when he decided that, yeah, I'm going to dedicate my whole life in Krishna's service. Because that was the first time he actually had a choice. He actually had the opportunity to make such a choice, make a decision. And he made that decision when he saw he had that choice. And he decided to dedicate his life in Krishna's service. Because he could. So the idea is for those who are parents, try to teach everything you can teach, so that because when they're small, but when they get big, teenage or out of high school or at some point they become a little more independent. They have their choice, decide what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. They should have be able to make the right decision, and that's also very important. Why the families stay together, this kind of things, because there's always a lot better opportunity for the little ones if the parents stay together in Krishna consciousness up into the end. Srila Prabhupada mentioned about his parents. He specifically mentioned they never had any serious, they had disagreements, but nothing serious, no serious problems. And he mentioned that it was like that. They had no problems seriously between them, which made a big difference, of course, for the children. Srila Prabhupada specifically mentioning that point is very, very good. So, like that. I'm not watching the time. I know you have to. Are we at the end?
Yeah, so
Okay, so we'll stop here. And if any questions, comments? Michael?
I had a quick one.
Yeah.
Realization when you were talking about like Prabhupada kindly mentions like fearful. Like almost every moment, like we're thinking about if we take a walk, like if there's a car gonna hit me, I gotta look this way, am I gonna step on a crack, like if we eat food, is it gonna get me sick? Almost at every moment we just consciously just think, this is fine, but it's really not. Almost every moment it's having a change. I'm getting too hot. We're constantly, it's not a comfortable place. You're driving, you're constantly thinking, am I going to get hit, or I have to do the right thing, I might get hit. So it becomes normal, but it's really not that normal to be always thinking about your safety.
Yeah, that's right. We see, we practically accept it as this is just like part of life. You gotta, but it's not really part of real life. It's part of the life in the material world. Yes, it's a fact.
I would say along those lines, legacy and stuff. I love these lines. This material world is described as which means that every step that there's danger. If doing wrong, he thinks that he's happy in the material world. But in fact, he's not. One of the things that way is only illusion.
Yeah.
Everything for animals, they're always in anxiety, just for this. And for us, most of us think, what may happen, what may this or that, it could be anything, but for those who are illusion, just the things like here, it's like life, they don't think about it.
For the animals, it's definitely there's around my neighborhood. There's some chickens, rooster and hen, and so you see them. They wander all around looking for something to eat. But they come around and they had at one point they had 6 little chicks. But as the chicks started growing up, gradually I saw only 5, and I saw only 4, and it's only 3. I don't know what happened to the others, if they died or somebody got them, or we don't know. But there was something there, because even when they were small, they started disappearing. So, there's danger. There's danger at every step. in the material world. That's a fact. But,
I had a question actually. When we were talking about how the less you identify with the body, the less you get affected by the material nature.
yes.
And as devotees, we constantly are trying to dissociate ourselves from the body. But I feel that even though I'm like practicing Krishna consciousness and everything, I still have like some anxieties about things, and I'm still affected by certain things in the material world. And so, what are some like practical ways in which we can continue to think about dissociating ourselves from the body?
Well, keep studying Srimad-bhagavatam, because Srimad-bhagavatam, there's a verse in the first canto, in the second chapter. That was Sanskrit verses, but it basically is describing that by following this process, including by studying the Srimad-bhagavatam, then we become free. Our suffering with the material world is reduced almost. It says almost to nil. You think, why almost? I mean, why not all the way, right? Almost to nil. And the answer is because even if we become 100% Krishna conscious, the material world is still a disturbance. I mean, maybe, and it's a disturbance. We may not be suffering heavily in some way because we're not identifying with it, but still, the material world is temporary and it's a disturbance. So almost, but we can't. The only thing we can do, if we at least our consciousness can be in the right place by studying these books. Srimad-bhagavatam is very, very important in that way. And studying doesn't just mean study. It doesn't just mean reading it. It means trying to apply it to your lives, like that. That verse, or one of the verses in that series, means it says like regular attendance in classes on the Srimad-bhagavatam. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So that's by regular it says regular attendance in the Srimad-bhagavatam class. So we may or not be actually we all have regular attendance in the Srimad-bhagavatam class. It's not coming here. It's available online. There's no reason we can't be hearing regular Srimad-bhagavatam. And if we're hearing it and we're trying to live by it, live by what we are learning, then we'll become Krishna conscious and more transcendental. But to be 100% free from any kind of disturbance of the material world is probably not possible until we are not in the material world, because we have to still deal with the material energy while we're here. But we should also have that faith that if we do that, we can minimize it to the greatest extent possible while we're here, and in the end, we go back to the spiritual world, and there's no misery. And it's just like if you're going on a vacation, you're going on a, I don't know, you want to go on a vacation somewhere. Okay, you want to go to Mayapur for a big deity installation, but there's so much problem trying to get things together here so you can get away. There's many difficulties along the way trying to get there. And you lose your passport, and you got to get your new passport, and you get your, so many things happen. But you got your goal, you got your mind fixed that I got to get there. You're looking forward to that enjoyable situation, that wonderful situation that you're expecting there. So you tolerate everything else, and you tolerate everything else, and you just go on and what drives you forward is your ultimate goal. So our ultimate goal is not the actual real goal to going back to God is not just to become free from material miseries. That's just kind of like an extra gift, you know. The actual goal is that we become reunited with Krishna in our particular eternal rasa, and we have to develop that really strong desire. This is what I really want, and all these other things we just tolerate them, and it'll be minimized to a large degree anyway because of our practicing Krishna consciousness. But it's tolerate what material movements and the material energy that we have to deal with. We have to tolerate that and keep that ultimate goal that I want to go back to the spiritual world, and then I know everything will be perfect. And as Srila Prabhupada says, or Krishna says actually, once having returned to my eternal abode, you will never be returned to this material world again. And of course, in eternal time is time there is eternal. There's no birth. There's no death. There's no end to it like that. So that's it. So pretty much dedicate your life as far as you can in Krishna's service, and tolerate the inconveniences of the material world as temporary, and then and keep in mind that ultimate goal. And when we get that ultimate goal, then all this will be just like it's just like we maybe have a nightmare during the night, but the nightmare, the dream actually probably only goes for a minute or two, even though it may seem like a long time. And so once we're back in the spiritual world, this whole existence in the material world will be like, we won't forget it, but it'll be, it's nothing of disturbance once we go back to the spiritual world. That's the goal. We belong there. We started there. We'll go back there. And if we spent 10 billion lifetimes in this material world to trying to get, before we became convinced to go back to the spiritual world, 10 billion lifetimes is Lord Brahma's time is just one breath of Lord Vishnu is Mahavishnu is his entire lifetime. So how many births have we taken again and again and again and again in the material universe during Lord Brahma's one lifetime? So it's just a moment, one breath of Lord Vishnu's time. So that's time in the spiritual world. Anyway, I think we have to stop here. Thank you for coming. Hare Krishna. And then we'll continue with the next verse tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.